Okay, so AI in education. It's kind of unavoidable these days, right?
Yeah, it's everywhere you look.
But we're trying to cut through the hype here, right? We're going deeper. We want to know what's actually happening in classrooms, and this is fascinating to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because apparently Mexico is kind of leading the charge.
Yeah, they are.
They are. So we've got a whole bunch of research from Mexican institutions.
Yeah.
And they're really on the front lines of figuring out how to take all this AI stuff and make it work in the world of education.
Yeah, and what I find really interesting is that Mexico is really looking at it from all angles. They're not just looking at the tools, but also the impact it has on both teachers and students.
Right.
But then also like the bigger picture, like what does this actually mean for the future of education?
It's like they're writing the instruction manual as we speak.
Absolutely.
So what kind of tools are we even talking about here?
Right.
Because, ChatGPT, right?
ChatGPT.
It's everywhere I turn, it feels like.
I was going to say, that's just the beginning.
Okay.
That's like the tip of the iceberg. This research, it mentions everything.
Okay.
Virtual labs where students can dissect organs.
What?
In 3D, virtually.
No way.
Personalized learning platforms.
Wow.
That can adapt to like each student's pace and style.
Okay, hold on. So we have these tools, but like how do they actually work?
Right.
Are we talking about robots grading papers? Like where are we at here?
Well, not quite robots grading papers yet, although that's probably not too far off. But a lot of what we see right now falls into the category of weak AI or narrow AI.
Okay.
Which is basically, it's designed to perform very specific tasks.
Yeah.
Like generating text.
Uh-huh.
Or solving certain types of equations, or even grading, like multiple choice quizzes.
Oh, interesting.
Think of it like this, like a really advanced calculator, right?
Okay.
It can crunch numbers.
Okay.
It can spit out answers.
Yeah.
But it's not really thinking for itself.
Got it.
Right.
So these weak AIs, they're already in classrooms.
Yeah.
Are they good enough to actually personalize learning, or is that where the strong AI needs to, step in?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's kind of the million-dollar question.
Right.
Strong AI, like the kind that can really learn and adapt, like the human brain.
Yeah.
It's largely theoretical.
Okay.
We don't have it yet, thankfully, or not yet. But these weaker forms of AI, powered by things like machine learning, are already being used to personalize certain aspects of the learning experience.
So machine learning, so that's where AI actually learns from data, right?
Exactly.
So if a student is really struggling with fractions,
Yes.
the AI could, in theory, be like, okay, they're having trouble with this specific concept and tailor the lessons or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all about using that data to tailor the experience each student needs. And this research highlights some really cool case studies of how this is actually happening in the real world.
Oh, what? What kind of case studies? I love a real world example.
Well, one that I thought was really cool, future doctors using virtual reality and augmented reality to dissect virtual kidneys.
Oh, whoa. No scalpels required?
No scalpels.
That's incredible.
Yeah, you can do it all virtually.
It's amazing how AI can create these immersive, interactive learning experiences
Yeah.
that honestly, even a few years ago, it just wouldn't be possible.
Right.
And it's not just limited to the medical field. They're using AI to design choose your own adventure style games for forensic science students.
Okay, that's seriously cool, but that sounds pretty high tech to me.
Yeah.
Is this accessible to every student? Or are we talking about specialized programs, that have all the money in the world? Where does this fit in for everybody else? You're hitting on a really crucial question, and it's something this research dives into.
Okay.
Because while these technologies have truly, truly incredible potential, the question of equitable access is paramount here.
Makes sense. It's having this amazing library, right, full of books. But if nobody can read, who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
What's the point?
And that's why this research really stresses how important it is to think about the digital divide at the same time that we're super excited about AI and education, right?
Totally.
It's not enough to just have the tools. We need to make sure that everybody can use them.
So we're talking about making sure every student has access to a computer, reliable internet.
Yes.
Even just the skills to use those things.
Absolutely.
Because that's a thing too, right?
Oh, yeah. It's about creating an environment
Right.
where every student, it doesn't matter where they come from, what their background is, they can benefit from these advances.
Right.
And it's not just about like, handing them a tablet and saying good luck.
Yeah.
It's about making sure these AI tools are actually designed with inclusivity in mind from the start.
Okay. When you say inclusivity in this like AI education world, what does that mean?
So it means making sure that these tools actually work for all types of learners.
Okay.
For example, right, a student with dyslexia, they might need a different way of learning than a student who's like a visual learner, right?
Yeah.
Different needs.
Totally.
So the AI has to be able to recognize those different needs and adapt.
Okay, so kind of like what a good teacher would do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like having, AI that can kind of act like that, like a good teacher in that sense. And this actually brings us to another important thing that this research talks about.
Okay.
The role of, those humans
Right.
at the heart of education.
Right. Teachers. Because they're not
Yes.
going anywhere, right? Or are they? Like, what's the research say? Are teachers worried that robots are going to take their jobs?
Well, it's really interesting because the research actually shows a real mix of opinions from teachers.
Okay.
Some are definitely a little,
Nervous.
nervous, apprehensive, yeah. But a lot of them are, cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
Like this one quote that really stuck with me. One teacher said, AI could actually free us from all those tedious tasks, all the things we have to do, and let us actually focus on what we're good at. Inspiring students, mentoring them, and actually like guiding them.
So it's not about replacing teachers. It's more like giving them superpower.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah. Think of AI as like the teaching assistant,
Okay.
not the replacement.
Gotcha.
It can help with things like grading, maybe even lesson planning, personalizing assignments,
Right.
but it can't replicate the human touch,
Yeah.
the empathy, the guidance that a good teacher can give.
It's like how a GPS can tell you the fastest route, right?
Yes.
But it doesn't tell you about that, like, scenic detour,
Yeah.
Or that cute little coffee shop. It's like
Sure.
there's a human element that it just can't capture.
That's a perfect analogy.
Right.
And it gets to the heart of what this research is saying. It's saying, look, teachers need to develop new skills
Okay.
to thrive in this world.
Like, what kind of skills? Are we talking about, like, coding robots and, like, doing all this crazy, like, super high-tech stuff? Because, honestly, like, I can barely work my smartphone half the time.
It's not so much about being like, a tech wizard, although it helps to be a little bit comfortable with technology,
Yeah.
but it's more about things like data literacy.
Okay.
So understanding the data that the AI is giving you, adaptive instruction, tailoring your style based on what the AI is telling you about the students. And of course, the big one, digital citizenship, ethical decision-making.
Right.
Because we want these kids to use AI responsibly.
So it's about empowering teachers to be even better at what they do best with the help of AI.
Exactly.
Not erasing them from the classroom entirely.
And this is where things get really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Because this is where those ethical algorithms that we mentioned before, those ethical considerations come into play.
Okay.
Because with AI becoming more powerful, more integrated into the classroom, we have to make sure it's being used ethically.
Right. We can't just like throw a bunch of technology at a problem and hope for the best, right? Like we have to think about the potential consequences here.
Absolutely.
So ethically speaking, what are some of the big concerns that came up in the research?
So one of the biggest ones is data privacy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because if these systems are collecting tons of data on these students, their learning habits, what they're good at, what they're not good at, even their emotional state,
Right.
who has access to that?
Right.
What are they doing with it?
Yeah.
And how do we make sure that it's not being misused?
Wow. Yeah, those are great questions. It's almost like we need a digital version of, like, informed consent, right?
Yeah.
For students and their parents to be like, this is what we're doing. This is how we're using it.
Yeah.
It's tricky, right?
Yeah.
Because we want to use all this cool tech, but we also don't want to be, like, creepy, right?
Right.
Like spying on kids, basically.
Exactly. And, it's not just about, like, protecting their data, but also making sure that the systems themselves are fair.
Mhm.
Like, take those AI programs that recommend what kids should study. But we
Mhm.
got to make sure they're not, like, accidentally steering kids in a certain direction based on some, like, outdated stereotype.
Oh, I see what you mean. So, like, if the data says boys are better at math, which we know is not true,
Right.
it might be like, oh, this girl, she shouldn't do STEM, even if she's like a total whiz at it.
Exactly. Yeah. We have to be so careful about the information that is used to train these algorithms, because if that information's biased, the AI is going to be biased too.
Okay, so how do we like prevent that? Because it seems like, we're using data to improve education, but what if the data itself is kind of messed up?
Yeah, it's a huge challenge, and there's no easy answer.
Yeah.
But this research stresses how important transparency is and like constantly evaluating how these systems work. We need to be able to look under the hood and see how these AIs are making decisions. Like, where's the bias?
Yeah, yeah.
And then we can adjust and refine them to make sure that they're actually promoting fairness.
So it's not like we just turn it on and walk away, right? It's like
Yeah.
we have to keep checking it, keep making sure it's doing what it's supposed to do.
Exactly. And that's where, we need the humans. We need the educators, the people making the rules, the ones who actually design the AI.
The whole team.
Yes, because they need to be part of these tough conversations about AI and education.
Yeah, it's not just about the tech itself,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's about like how we're using it.
Exactly. And this is why I think this is such a fascinating topic.
Yeah.
It's not just about ones and zeros, right? It's about how do we actually help students learn? How do we make teachers even better? And how do we make education better and more fair for everyone?
So it feels like, we're at this really, really exciting moment, but also like a little bit, I don't know.
Overwhelming.
Yeah, like a little overwhelming. Like we're stepping into this whole new world and there's so much potential, but also like we could mess it up, right?
Yeah. And this research reminds us that we're not just along for the ride. We're not just passengers. We can actually shape how this all plays out.
Yeah. So for all of our listeners out there who are like, okay, this has been fascinating. Like, what can they do? How can they be a part of this whole AI in education thing?
Talk about it.
Okay.
Like literally share what you learned here today. Share it with your colleagues at school. Talk to your families about it,
Yeah.
with your students.
Ask the hard questions.
Right.
Be curious.
Don't just be like a bystander, right? Like get involved.
Exactly.
So if you're a teacher, figure out how AI can help you in your classroom.
Right.
If you're a parent, like talk to your kids about, hey, is this happening at your school? Like have those conversations.
Exactly.
And students, if you're out there listening, you're the ones who are living this.
That's right.
Share your thoughts, share your concerns, your ideas. Like this is about you.
Because the future of education, it doesn't just happen. We have to create it.
And that is a wrap on our deep dive into the world of AI in education. We hope this has been like eye-opening, maybe even a little mind-blowing.
Yeah, definitely thought-provoking.
Keep learning, keep asking those tough questions, and don't be afraid to like imagine what education could look like, right?
Absolutely.
And if you have any thoughts or stories about AI and education that you want to share, please do. You know where to find us. Hit us up on social media.